Good morning to you. It is Daybreak at 8:45, and we are happy to have in studio for some riveting radio real estate. It's Don Pannell. Good morning, Don.
Good morning, Jeff. Good morning, Carol.
Happy Friday
Good
to
morning,
you.
Happy Friday and 4th of July weekend.
Yeah, for sure.
Summer. Hard to believe it's July already.
It is very hard to believe it's July already. We are looking at some listings as we talk throughout the day. Also, you give us some great tips on first-time homeowners or making pick up that second house. What would you like to talk about today?
Well, I have a new listing.
Okay.
Hopefully that can get pulled up with pictures.
Yeah,
it's
I'm going to try to get that here.
out on Agate Road, just a little ways off of Highway 3. So you turn off of Highway 3 onto Agate Road, and it's the third driveway on the left. And you can see it sitting back from the road, but once you get into the house, you feel like you're a million miles away. It's a little over an acre of land, and it's on a creek, and it's wooded all the way around it. Really a cute little place. It used to be a retail outlet. Some people from out in that area might remember it was like a little art store type place.
Oh, okay.
And so the whole basement was used as the retail space, so it's all set up with a separate entrance and that kind of thing, and a separate parking area down below, which you could use for RV parking too, but they used it for parking for the retail space. And then upstairs is a 2-bedroom, 1-bath with a den and a nice big living room with lots of big windows and a full deck going across the front. It's just a cute little place. So, and then it's got a detached garage that has a big shop in the back of it, and then a little pump house that's on its own well and its own septic. Kind of an irregular shaped lot. It was divided up kind of funny. So, but it's pretty well marked where the boundary lines are. It's kind of a long and narrow lot, but it is a little over an acre. So, very, very cool place.
And when was that listed?
Just listed yesterday,
Okay.
and it's already been shown once, and somebody already marked it as a favorite. So
Wow.
I'm hoping that one will go quick. Listed for $159,900. So pretty good price for the amount of land and the size of house. So it's an older house, 1973, I believe, but still in real good shape. Mm-hmm. So hopefully folks will get a chance to take a look at that if they're interested, or if they know somebody who's interested in that area. Like I say, real close to town, but feels a million miles away.
Yeah.
And very, very peaceful. So
We do have some photos up on the site, on the website, if you're watching the show here on YouTube. Yeah, those pictures look good too.
Yeah, cute. And then the other thing I wanted to talk about, a couple weeks ago we talked about a little listing out in Tahuya, and we showed some pictures, cute little A-frame place. And in the latest issue of the Journal, in the sports section on the second page, in Mark Wojtowicz's column, talks about the location of that house at Maynard's Landing, right in Tahuya. So if you get a chance to take a look, it talks about what a great little underused park it is, and how pretty and how peaceful, and which is exactly what I thought when I first went to the house. So it shows, you can actually kind of see the house, the deck from the picture if you look real close, but it shows the little canal area that goes back in there, and talks about how you can't get in there at low tide, but at high tide you can take a boat in there, and they do dredge it so you can get back and forth. So I thought that was kind of cool.
Yeah.
I opened that up and I thought, wow, I know that place. Yeah. So, and then the other thing we wanted to kind of talk about, which you had mentioned, might be kind of interesting to folks. This, I guess, is the anniversary of the
Amityville horror, and the house in New York is back up for sale.
It has been actually a couple of times.
Yeah.
It's been sold a couple of times. And you had asked a question about why in the listing they didn't mention that was where that happened. I guess basically it said, 5-bedroom house or whatever with blah blah blah, the normal thing you see in real estate listings. So I wanted to kind of read to you to let folks know this is out of my real estate textbook.
Okay.
So, and it talks about that kind of thing is could be a material fact. It's something that affects the house.
Yeah.
But Washington is a buyer beware state, so it's not required that something that does not affect the safety or the livability of a house be disclosed by the real estate agent. So let me read you what it says.
Okay.
A licensee must disclose a material fact to a party if, number one, the licensee knows about it, and two, it is not apparent or readily ascertainable by the party. So if it's not something that they can look up records on, then, if it is something that they can look up records on, you don't have to put it in the listing.
Oh.
So a material fact is information that has a substantial negative impact on the value of the property, on a property's ability to perform, and on the purpose of the transaction. The law goes on to specifically exclude certain types of information from the definition. It is not considered material if the property or a neighboring property was or may have been the site of a violent crime, a suicide or other death, drug or gang-related activity, political or religious activity, or any other occurrence that doesn't adversely affect the physical condition or the title of the property. So, however, and they gave a little example. It says, Agent Kipling is showing buyer Green a home. Green has 3 children and wants a safe family home to live in. The home Kipling is showing Green was the site of a brutal homicide-suicide 3 years ago.
Okay.
So, this information is not considered a material fact and need not be disclosed to Green. However, if in the example above, Green asks Kipling whether he is aware of any crimes that had occurred on the property, Kipling would have to answer honestly. Regardless of whether the information requested is a material fact, a licensee is obligated to answer questions honestly and in good faith.
So you should ask these questions.
Exactly. If that kind of thing concerns you, and some people it does, some people it doesn't, but if it does, then definitely you should ask. If your real estate agent knows, they need to tell you.
Wow. What if you find out later they did know?
I'm not sure what the recourse would be then. It would be up to the ethics of the real estate agent that if they know something, they should honestly tell you. But I'm not sure whether there's, other than just checking, turning them into the licensing folks, that there would be any recourse.
I guess it would be maybe the same if you asked about any other thing that they knew of but decided not to disclose.
I remember when I was taking the classes that there were examples of things like the agent who was representing the seller knew that there was a big old crack in the foundation and had the seller kind of cover it up with plants and things.
Oh.
And didn't say, and so that's a violation then of the ethical rules that we follow, that we have to be honest and protect the interests of both the buyer and the seller, even if we're only representing the seller.
Yeah.
Or something like covering up a hole in the floor with a rug or something like that. You're not supposed to do that. You're supposed to honestly represent the property. But to put something like this house was the site of a mass murder in a listing would be kind of counterproductive. Most people wouldn't even take a second look. But I've seen that house. I mean, it's kind of a cool house.
I'm looking at pictures right now.
Yeah.
So is it the due diligence of you to ask the seller of certain things that could be wrong with the house, or do you not ask unless they offer the information?
It depends. I mean, something like that, I probably wouldn't ask unless I already knew.
More structural, I suppose.
Structural, yes. You and in Washington, and I believe in other states as well, the seller does fill out. Remember, we talked about that seller disclosure form, and so, but on that there isn't anything that says did a murder happen here.
Right. But the seller themselves, cover up the cracks in the cement, and then the real estate agent would never know.
Right, absolutely. And then it would be up to an inspector to come. The buyer would hire an inspector to come, and hopefully an inspector would be able to tell that. But the whole thing is that it needs to be an honest and fair to all parties thing. So saying in a listing that the Amityville horror happened in this house is not really fair to the seller, because they didn't do it,
Yeah.
And so, but on the other hand, if a buyer has a great concern about that, then they should definitely ask.
It's a nice looking house.
It is a beautiful house.
It's got like water access, I think, and things like that. So would it be a tell if you look up the past buy-sell orders? You go, well, over the years, for whatever reason, this house has been put up on the market 4 times in the last 6 years.
Right.
What's the deal?
That is definitely part of due diligence that the buyer, should do if there is any question at all. Sometimes buyers walk into a house and just absolutely fall in love with it and don't do their due diligence, and then they're surprised down the road.
Sure.
So we always recommend that you really do as much research as you think you need to.
Interesting.
I mean, and again, in Washington, it's up to the buyer beware to do that research. And as a real estate agent, I would be honored to help them do that. Because I think it's important.
I think so. I've disclosed this before, but Christy from John L. Scott helped me with the house that Stephanie and I bought, and I feel like I asked her if there was any paranormal activity or something that the other folks had mentioned. There wasn't any, and I haven't noticed any. But
good.
I felt kind of silly asking the question, but you got to ask these.
You got to ask if those things are important to you.
Yeah.
I mean, and again, some people don't care. I mean, they kind of like to have a ghost or two around, but other people don't. So you just you ask, and if the agent knows, they should tell you.
I suppose you could always hire a psychic to come along with you.
You could, yeah.
Home inspector's coming at 2. The psychic's coming at 3.
right.
Don, we have a couple minutes left, so what else would you like to talk about?
Well, we've been going through the real estate contract, and we got a little ways on it last time. I think we got down to as far as talking about the earnest money, and that is an amount of money that is held by the title company or the escrow company to demonstrate the buyer's interest in the property, and it is deposited, it is cashed, but then it comes off at the end of the transaction. And then we just touched on the default of that. So you have 2 options. You can either elect forfeiture of your earnest money if you default on the contract for no good reason, or seller's election of remedies. I always check forfeiture of earnest money because I'm not sure I want the seller to tell me what the consequences would be if the buyer backs out.
Yeah.
So as a buyer, you should have that be just your forfeiture of your earnest money.
Okay.
If again you back out for no good reason. So, and then the next line that we fill in is the title insurance company. The buyer usually gets to select that. The only time that isn't the case is where if in the listing the seller specifically requests a certain title and escrow company, we usually try to go with that. And the reason for that is that they probably have already done some preliminary title work with that company. So it would be just a good idea, since some research has already been done, to continue with that. We're very fortunate to have 3 local title companies that are all very good. There's your Mason County Title, Olympic Title and Escrow, and Land Title and Escrow. All really good. I've used all 3 of them. So, but and then sometimes when you're working with an out-of-town seller, they will request an escrow company in their area.
Sure.
Or if you're working with an out-of-town buyer, they want someplace close by, and that makes sense because there's lots of paperwork that needs to go back and forth. So most title companies and escrow companies are good at what they do.
Okay.
But it is something that the buyer can choose. And then the next line also goes along with that is the closing agent. So that's a person in the escrow company who kind of walks your file through all of the various things that need to happen, the title search and the finding out if there's any liens against the property, all of that kind of thing, getting a legal description, everything like that. So those are things that you need to choose. And then the next thing is a closing date and a possession date. Normally, possession date is on closing, but sometimes it can be closing plus 3 days if the seller needs extra time to move out. That's all part of a negotiated contract. You can negotiate those things.
Don, we are just about out of time, so your phone number that people can get in contact with you with?
490-4493 or come see me on the corner of 3rd and Railroad, right behind the clock tower in the John L. Scott office. I would love to talk with you.
And we will talk with you again in 2 weeks here for another episode of Riveting Radio Real Estate.
We'll be here.
Happy 4th of July.
Thanks, you too.
9 o'clock, you're listening to KMAS Shelton.
ABC News, I'm Daria Albinger. She knows how it looked, but a lot of people wanted to know, including the